Goodness.
Great. Welcome, Marietta, Dana, Becky, and awesome here. Make Josh here co-host so you can help me as we get more people trickling in. We usually give it a few minutes after the hour just to allow everybody to get settled in, and we usually have people come in, right at 6, 6:02, 6:03. We'll get a few minutes here.
Sounds
We'll all
good.
honor everybody that's here on time as well. Dana, I don't think I've seen you on our calls before. Where are you coming from? Oh, you're muted.
I'm in New York City. I went to high school with the presenter today, and I saw the notice of the meeting.
Awesome.
Thank you for the support. Much appreciated.
Wow.
Yep, he sat in front of me in AP Calculus. Hi.
What's up? What's up?
That's
Hi.
awesome.
It's been 20 years. Hope all is well.
Oh my
I'm excited.
It's crazy, right? Time flies, huh?
Wow.
That's beautiful. Wow. How time flies, right? And here we are. There's some more people trickling in. Welcome everybody to Healing Conversations. Andres, is this on, which Andres is this? I know one Andres. Let's see here. Welcome, Phil. Okay. Welcome, Phil. We got some more people trickling in here.
Hey, Noe, I'm still getting my audio set up here.
No worries.
Give you guys a couple of minutes to get all settled in. Let a couple more come in.
Right. We're right at 6 o'clock, so we'll just give it like, 2, maybe 4 minutes tops, 2 or 3
Sounds
minutes,
like a plan.
and then we'll jump on the call. Um, just to explain a little bit about what Healing Conversations is all about for everybody that's here. Healing Conversations really started towards the end of last year. It was something that was bubbling forth, and one morning, just simply the words came through, Healing Conversations. I got on the computer. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just did it. And more information started to come through. First, it was just something like holding space for people to feel vulnerable, to express themselves, to build community, to make connections. And then it came through to have guest speakers to share perspectives. And so really the intention with Healing Conversations originally was, as the title implies, the intention is all about healing, for people to be seen, to be heard, to express what's been suppressed, to let go of what no longer serves, and to recontextualize, reframe the stories that make us suffer, right? And to create new stories that empower us, that make us happy, create a better experience of life. And so here we are, June, like 3 months later or so. And now we've been having lots of guest speakers. We're booked all the way into the middle of August. And so excited about that we have so many people that really want to shine their light and share their stories with our community that's ever growing. And it's those perspectives are the things that shed the light of awareness to the areas that we sometimes get stuck on, that we're resisting life in, right? Sometimes we get so narrow in our perspective that we don't see a way out. And so when we have all these different perspectives, it really creates this framework to be able to get out of our little narrow perspective. Because I'm a expert as far as narrow perspectives. I grew up with a very narrow perspective, and it took me quite a while to really like see things from a wider perspective, and it just completely blew my reality apart. And that was beautiful destructive process that created room for a new creative process to take place. And I feel like we are always going this cycle of breakdown to breakthrough. We go from a narrow perspective that gets blown up, and then we see things from a different perspective, and then we recreate. We become new iterations. We enter new chapters in our way of being. And so it's my hope that through this platform, we're able to build community, we're able to get perspective, and then we're able to uplift each other by the sharing of our stories. And then we feel comfortable to be vulnerable, to share our stories, like Yanni is sharing his story with us today. And so it's 6:03. So without further ado, let's talk about Yanni. Yanni will be talking about the theme, which is such a timely theme and in line with what we're doing here. He talks about the paradigm, examining ideas that hold us back individually and as a society. A little bit of Ioanny. He's an artist, a certified personal trainer, and a nutrition coach. Coming from a background of addiction, he found an easy way out and removed negativity from his life while embracing spirituality, gratitude, meditation, fitness, and yoga. So, quite an array of modalities that he will be sharing with us. And maybe one of those will be what turns on the light of awareness, and we'll be like, wait a second, maybe I could do that. And that'll help me, get perspective, and I'll be able to release those things that no longer serve me and be empowered. So without further ado, Yanni, the floor is yours. We're so excited to hear about your journey.
All right. Thank you so much. Noe, thank you so much. First off, thank you so much for having me. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me. First, I think it'll be just a great way to start if I invite everybody to just take a couple of breaths. Let's separate ourselves from what we were doing before, what we're about to talk about now. So I'm not going to lead anybody. Just take a couple of breaths on your own. All right. Now that we've all arrived, first off, I like to invite everybody to employ Bruce Lee's method of learning. This is something I always found very fascinating. For those of you unfamiliar, Bruce Lee said, research your own experience, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is uniquely your own. I think for the most part, that's what I've done. And everything I'm about to talk about tonight, it's really some ideas that are holding us back, which is kind of a big relief when you think about it, because we don't have to kind of fight any wars with anybody. We don't need to attack anybody. We just need to change some ideas that we have. We really need to examine them and maybe get rid of them. Maybe they served us at one point. However, I think we could all agree that some of these ideas that I'm about to talk about no longer serve us, right? And the way I see it is we're kind of at an evolutionary crossroads, right? It's time where we're either going to kill these ideas or these ideas are going to kill us. Now, for me, if I were a betting man, I'd bet on humanity any day. We seem to be able to do incredible things. And so, with that said, I'll get into the first idea that I want to talk about. First idea I want to talk about is this concept of, and I know I've had this for a long time. I had this idea about myself, but the first idea is I am not worthy or I am not enough, right? This is something that I think a lot of people deal with and struggle with. And, where does it come from? I will start with this. No person on this planet is failing at being a human. We're all nailing it. When we feel we are falling short, we need to remember to give ourselves grace and understand that perhaps it is the system that is either failing us or giving us unreasonable expectations of ourselves. If we are depressed, this is a check engine light on the entire system in which we are a part of. And it is clear the system is not running optimally, in my view. If we are upset that we don't have something, maybe it is something we don't need. If we're upset that we can't do something, maybe it is something we're not meant to do. We are programmed from a very early age to desire food not made for our bodies, frivolous things we don't need, and pursue jobs that sometimes put us in a position which hurt the world around us and each other. We succeed at being humans in a system that is poorly designed for humans. Our own perceived shortcomings are actually an indictment of the system, not of ourselves. I believe, and this is just my personal opinion, I believe the problem starts with school. And this is just my opinion. But something feels very wrong about taking children at the age of 6, 7, and 8 at their most, at the time where they're most developmentally vulnerable, right? And starting to grade them. introducing this concept of some of you are better at some things than others. Groups of children are forced to study the same subjects, with some excelling in some areas and others seemingly lagging behind. The idea of comparing ourselves to others is ingrained in us very early on, and it drives us. And sometimes it drives us mad. We're all different. We're all beautiful, wonderful drops of awesomeness that come from stardust. There can be no grade assigned to any of us because it would just be A+ or 10 out of 10. And we have been put on this earth to share our unique gifts with the rest of the planet. So this concept of comparing ourselves to each other, the idea that we are not enough, is clearly false. We have been perfect from the day we were born. And just as a flower is perfect from the day it sprouts, we may have not blossomed fully yet, but we are absolutely perfect, absolutely doing things in our own time, in our own way. And that is perfectly acceptable and okay. And not only that, it's great. It's how we do things, right? So if we ourselves are a part of a greater ecosystem, then everything negative we see, the depression, the crime, addiction, and everything else we perceive as wrong with the world, become the biggest warning sign that maybe we aren't doing the civilization thing right. Now, again, nobody is failing at being a human, but something is wrong. So we have to look at the system. And again, this brings me back to my initial point. It's the ideas that are killing us. Now, the next idea I want to tackle is the idea of that happiness is on the other side of, or destination syndrome. And I would like to offer an alternative, which is called the SPIRE model of happiness. I don't know if anybody is familiar, but basically, unfortunately for us, this capitalistic society needs us to believe that we need to do something, or we need to buy something, or we need to get something, or we need to achieve something in order to be happy, right? Maybe it's a new pair of shoes, or maybe a house, family, nice car in the driveway. Perhaps at a certain point in our career, or maybe even only after retirement, which is the craziest thing to consider. The unfortunate part is when we get there, the happiness we do feel when we do get there is often short-lived and seems very fickle. This is because while these things can be enjoyable, we have not properly learned how to be happy, right? Happiness is tricky. It's hard to put your finger on, and the direct pursuit of it seems to make us even more miserable. So, unfortunately, the paradigm we're in order to kind of perpetuate itself, it needs us to believe these things that you know that happiness is there, so we could blindly go towards these goals and blindly move in a direction that is unholistic, that is destructive to ourselves, to our fellow man, and to the planet. Now, if we know that, okay, it's not going to be this, it's not going to be the career, it's not going to be the promotion, it's not going to be the car, it's scary to think that, like, when we get there, we look for the next thing, right? If the wife isn't going to get us there, then we need a kid. If the Cadillac won't do it, now we need to start saving up for a Porsche. This is a scary concept. If we achieve fame and fortune, which many consider to be the pinnacle of our society, and people are still unhappy, then they will really turn to perhaps like some dark things to try to find happiness, which is why we have like this long history of artists doing things that we later find out are completely unsavory, right? So if happiness isn't in stuff, it isn't in pre-established life goals, how can we find it? I noticed I started to find happiness when I started cleansing my body. Now, fortunately for me, a series of books fell in my path by the author Alan Carr. And if you or anyone you know struggles with addiction, I highly recommend you look into the author Alan Carr. I've never met the man, but he is one of my greatest teachers. He has a series of books called The Easy Way Method. So it makes quitting everything easy and enjoyable. So I was an alcoholic for many years. I was a smoker for many years. I ate terrible foods, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. When I started cleansing myself, I started noticing that happiness started entering my life in abundance. The most obvious and blatant was when I quit drinking. It was drastic, very drastic. And this kind of brings me to the first two aspects of the SPIRE model. So the SPIRE model of happiness, I'll just go over a quick overview, is spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional. So if you're healthy in these 5 ways, you're probably going to be pretty darn happy. All right. So I cleansed my body. I started replacing all the things I was doing with healthier things. So I introduced yoga into my life, meditation. So that checks the physical box. The yoga and just the appreciation of life that I had checks the spiritual box, right? And spirituality, it's kind of hard to nail down. Like, how do you define spiritual happiness? I like to talk about faith. And when I talk about faith, I don't necessarily mean like believing in a higher power or believing in a God necessarily, although that is a great modality of faith. I believe faith could be something as simple as having faith that it's just going to be okay, that life's going to work itself out. I like to look at the example of the Grand Canyon and think that if that happened over however many years without a plan, and it's as awe-inspiring and beautiful as it is, we might be in pretty good hands in the universe, right? So having that little bit of faith that everything is going to be all right, and just because our brain, it wants to just jump to the worst case scenario all the time, and meditation kind of helps us quiet the mind, but we have to reinforce that thought that maybe it's not going to be the end of the world if this doesn't happen, or if. So that's a little bit about some spiritual well-being. On the physical aspect, the body wants to be healthy, and it wants to guide you to be healthy. And this is coming from a personal trainer and a nutrition coach. The body will signal to us what it needs, and when you feel down, it may be because the body needs something. A large part of serotonin that gets released in our brains is dictated by the gut microbiome. So if we eat a lot of, and this is just one example, but if we eat a lot of processed foods, then we're limiting the amount of serotonin that we're going to receive. So that's just one aspect of our body signaling us to be physically healthy. And when you achieve a decent level of physical well-being and physical health, the body sings and it genuinely starts to love life. Right? So what comes next? Intellectual curiosity. Now, this is a great one. I think we're all fascinated and curious about many different things, and whatever it is, it's all about just, researching, finding things you're fascinated in, asking questions, and then answering those questions or finding answers for those questions. Right? I think it's the inquisitive nature of the mind. The mind wants to stay kind of exercising, just like the body needs exercise, the mind needs exercise, right? So we got to keep the mind active as well. And that happens by satisfying intellectual curiosity. Simple as that, right? So next we have relational health. Now, this one to me is very important. I firmly have come to the conclusion that we are beings of community. And this is, again, a way that our bodies and our brains signal us that we need community. We need to have good relationships in our lives with good people who uplift us. That's what our bodies crave. And I believe it's part of the evolutionary process. I believe we didn't survive nature as lone animals or lone wolves, so to say. We did it as a community. So to encourage community, our brains make us happier when we have good relationships, right? So that's another little checkbox that we need to tick in our own well-being, right? Just having good relationships with good, solid people that uplift us. Now, finally, we have emotional health. Now, this one's definitely difficult, right? We have a rainbow of emotions, and it's important to respect them, honor them, understand what they mean, but also at the same time, kind of not always succumb to them entirely, right? Now, it's important to understand what emotions do what, right? Depression, sadness is a sign that we may be doing something wrong, that we need something, right? And that's going back to the checklist. So it's important to honor that, right? Or it could be a sign that we're grieving something, right? And that's always important to honor the grieving process, you know. Another one to another emotion that's important to get a grasp on is fear. Now, the fear mindset, I think, is important, but it's also very important to understand that there is nothing beneficial about being in a constant state of fear or stress. It's not healthy. And eventually these emotions, they are chemicals in our brain. And if we stay in stress and fear for too long, our brain becomes addicted to stress and fear, and it'll subconsciously start doing things that'll keep us in that mode, right? So obviously there's many more emotions. Joy is a big one, right? We can't touch on every emotion now, but just giving you a quick rundown, right? So in the end, it turns out happiness isn't over here. It isn't after that. It's in the here and now. And when we create our own happiness, all those other things, the shoes, the house, the car, the wife, the kids, all that become just genuine pleasures in life. And they are more easily enjoyed and cherished when happiness comes from within, right? Now, the next idea I want to talk about is very important for me, and I love talking about it because as a nutrition coach and as more specifically as a personal trainer, this one really resonates with me. We got to stop glorifying pain, struggle, and sacrifice in our society. We live in this weird society where we fetishize everything that is painful, everything that is a struggle. We say we need to sacrifice this to get that. In order to move towards a better place individually and socially, we need to acknowledge that this is a complete misrepresentation. And we need to understand the actual purpose of pain. Pain is like vision and taste and smell. It is a sense that is meant to communicate something. And it is communicating danger, right? So somehow in this society we have collectively built, it has become some sort of badge of honor, right? And I think that kind of comes from this concept that we need to prove ourselves, right? We need to prove ourselves so we show people that we could tolerate a lot of pain, and that kind of justifies our existence, right? And while I agree it is a necessary part of life, I think it should not be glorified as a transformational tool. I do think that sometimes we are in a certain state of pain and we need to go through a higher state of pain to ultimately end up into a lower state of pain. But ultimately, what we want to do is move towards a lower state of pain, right? And I like to use the example of, like, imagine a child touching a hot stove. Who would be the crazy person to tell the kid to keep their hand there for personal growth? That's crazy, isn't it? And when I look at the fitness industry, and this is why so many people are kind of jaded to the fitness industry, Everybody brags about the pain they endure. No pain, no gain. Sacrifice, struggle, work hard. Like, no, that's a terrible way to approach fitness. Fitness should be fun. Fitness should be enjoyable. I can tell you right now, I do all sorts of things. I lift weights, I do yoga, I swim, I run, and this is just covering a couple of things. Now, I genuinely love all these things. These are like genuine pleasures for me. I feel alive when I do them. I'm either getting like a sense of speed when I swim or when I run, or like a genuine sense of zen or achievement. Not to mention the body just releases all sorts of feel good kind of chemicals, right? That runner's high is a very real thing. So yeah, it feels like there really is a misrepresentation in the fitness industry, and this again, like I say, has jaded a lot of people, because what ends up happening is someone will get motivated to get fit. They'll get a lot of like willpower, and they'll do it very hard and push themselves very hard, and then they'll either burn out or injure themselves. And when either of those two things happen, it gets hard, it becomes hard to come back to it. And usually those things happen before you see real lasting results, right? So what's the alternative? Well, start slow. Explore a whole bunch of options. Really find things that you enjoy yourself, right? There's many modalities of physical activity. And by finding what you enjoy and starting slowly, you begin to fall in love with what you're doing. And then you do it just because you love it. And when you love it, one day you're going to look in the mirror and say, oh my God, when did that happen? And that's when you start seeing results, because you're not thinking about results, right? Like, think about when we were kids. We used to run ourselves ragged playing, right? Then we'd realize we're out of breath. So we pause, we take a breath, and we go right back to playing, right? And that's the way it should be, right? So when I do exercise and I do feel genuine pain, I know it's a sign for me to pull back. It's a sign for me to be mindful of what I'm doing, because maybe I'm about to injure myself, right? And I'm not going to say that there's not discomfort when I work out. There is. I just don't think about it because I'm too busy just having fun, right? Maybe after I'm like, oh, I'm a little sore after that. But again, it's not painful, really. A little mild discomfort that gets drowned out in all the feel good chemicals and all the fun I'm having, right? So again, like I said, I believe this all stems from the concept that we need to prove ourselves, which again, we don't need to prove ourselves. We're perfect as we are, right? So this concept of proving yourself with the pain badge of honor, let's forget about that. An idea that needs to go away, right? I always like the example of an animal in the wild. An animal uses its senses to find its food, right? When it eats that food, it's satisfied. And what happens when it's satisfied? It excretes the perfect food for the ground. And in return, the earth creates the perfect food for animals. So by seeking happiness and satisfaction, we are actually maximally like interfacing with the system, not through pain, but with happiness and satisfaction. That's how we know we're on the right path, right? Because if you think about the process that created us, right, it needed to incentivize things for the whole ecosystem to work, right? It's not going to incentivize us with pain. The system would fail. It incentivizes us with happiness, right? So that's my argument for happiness over pain. All right. Now, next up, we got to talk about failure, because it isn't the worst thing in the world. It might actually be a pretty good thing. Look at our natural history, the evolution of life on this planet. we see a plethora of failure. Failure is the backbone of the most impressive design system like in the universe. I mean, a system that has truly yielded some impressive results. When we look at our own body, and I think the human body is just so freaking cool, right? I used to want a Ferrari, and then I realized I have something way more impressive than a Ferrari in my body. Now, a Ferrari, as an example, is an exceptional machine. It can do amazing things. It is the apex of automotive engineering, some would say, right? And yet I can't help but see only a fraction of the complexity of the human body, right? It really doesn't have much that could compete against the human body, right? And if you think about it, there's very few things that can outlast the human body, right? Especially when you consider all the things we can do and the many different types of fuels we can run on, right? It's truly an impressive machine. Not only that, but we share this planet with like a plethora of other impressive machines, and like all animals, all plant life, fungus, etc. All went through this process of trial and error, and a majority of that history has been error. The right, like very little of it is success, and what failure provides us is knowing what doesn't work. That's simply it. But we have somehow demonized it in our society. Now, I just want to continue in just, explaining the complexity of the system, because it's not just us that are complex. The ecosystems that we are a part of, especially wild animals, if you look at the ecosystems that they're a part of, those ecosystems evolved as well, right? So really, there's a lot of failure everywhere. And on the end of failure, you have really solid, beautiful, incredible animals, incredible ecosystems, right? That attribute everything that they are to the failures that came before them. So why then, if failure is such a massive part of such a successful and incredible design system, do we demonize it so greatly in our society? Why do we beat ourselves up as hard as we do when things don't go our way? Shouldn't it merely be a simple sign to go in a different direction, or to say, or to do something in a different way? I mean, that's what I think. However, in our society, we have become very rigid against change. We have been taught from a young age that only success is rewarded. But isn't an elimination of a faulty path or method a reward of its own? Now we know what not to do, right? I mean, surely we're not just going to nail it on the first try every time, right? That's seems very unreasonable. How many times do you fail in a maze, right? You got to really try multiple pathways to finally get to where you're going, right? Again, this brings me back to the issue I have with schools and the concept of grading kids. When they're their most impressionable in the rigid structure provided, a structure that doesn't take into account that kids learn at different rates and have different interests at different times, there's no flexibility to embrace failure. It is merely seen as an issue. If a child is failing a class, action must be taken. Forget the reason for the failure. Imagine the psychological impact that takes, right? I think that by doing this, our aversion to failure has become so strong that it limits our thinking, right? And it limits what we are willing to do. I know personally, there's many things I wanted to do forever in my life, but I was afraid I would fail. Now I'm finally doing them, and I wish I started sooner because I will be further along, right? So now when we take this newfound view of failure into account, when we look at the paradigm we're in, the system we're in, it can alleviate some of the hatred or disdain that we might have, right, for this system. Surely it's a benefit knowing that, okay, this is not the way to do things. I think we could all agree that we need to find a better way moving forward, right? There's no need to hate or say that we've done something wrong, right? that's where you run into friction. Nobody likes to be told they're wrong, right? We just need to merely recognize that exploring and following, perhaps that we were just exploring an inevitable path of not of logic. And now we could say this path of logic has run dry. We know now this is not the way. In a sense, we are looking at the most important failure in human history, and it will gift us with an amazing new world moving forward if we can learn from this. All right. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing good? Let me see some thumbs up. Excellent. Love it. Love it. Love it. Excellent. All right, guys. All right. All right. Next, I want to talk about the idea, and I've gotten some kind of resistance to this idea when I talk about it. We got to stop blaming people. We got to start blaming the people factory, right? We have become far too complacent in blaming people. We see someone doing bad things, we label them a bad person. We kind of tell ourselves, we're like, I can never be that, so I'm a good person, they're a bad person. Again, this I believe is kind of from that need to prove and validate our own existence. But it's really it kind of lets the system off the hook, because we can all agree that hurt people, right? So instead of indicting the person, let's indict the system, right? Because if we keep blaming people, the system gets away with it, and we never change the system, and we're going to have the same kind of repeat offenders over and over again. You know, if you think of the case of billionaires, right? A lot of people blame billionaires for a lot of the problems in the world. Now, some people want to be billionaires, some people want to blame them. Nobody understands that like billionaires are kind of addicts. Greed is an addiction, right? An addiction is not, I can tell you from personal experience, addiction is never a good place to be. So we kind of have to like give them our compassion, because like Elon Musk even said, he was like, nobody wants to be me. Nobody wants to be in my head. And if the richest person on the planet is saying that, we really got to, ask ourselves some questions, right? And if we can teach billionaires that, okay, what you have is kind of this condition. We want to teach you compassion, love, etc. They can become our greatest tools in creating a better world. If we could teach them the power of giving, how good it feels to give, maybe they could take that vast wealth and give to the planet, give to society, and truly gift us with the tools that we need to make a better world, right? And the billionaires is just one example. There are many examples: murderers, drug addicts, thieves, the list goes on. But everybody is just hurt. And I'm not saying let's not hold them accountable, but let's not hold them responsible. And I think there's a difference. We can treat them with love and compassion. We can teach them a better way, right? So I think the best way going forward is to really unburden ourselves of guilt and blame. And that's like the compassionate and loving way forward. I know in my personal journey, I held myself, very, very, like, I kind of judged myself very harshly on my past mistakes, etc. So I said to myself at one point, I will forgive myself of everything. Anything I feel I did wrong, I will forgive myself. In return, I will forgive everybody else of everything I think they do wrong. And it was a small price to pay, right? Now, last idea I want to talk about is that the system is too big to change. This one needs to go away, and I hear this one a lot. I'm told that it is in our nature, that war is in our nature, destruction is in our nature. I believe this to be false. I believe that in order for mankind to survive nature, we had to come together as community. And we are community beings. And to be in a community, we need to express compassion and love. And that is in our nature. Frankly speaking, when you talk about us not being able to do something, we have a long history of people telling us we can't do things or us thinking we can't do things. We were never meant to fly. We were never going to fly. We were never going to go faster than the speed of sound. We were never going to, explore space. We've done all these things. We've sent people into space. We've gone faster than the speed of sound, and now flying is commercially readily available to everybody. So we have a long history of being told we can't do something and showing that we can. So the idea of the system being too big to change or anything like that, we need to get rid of it. Because I'll tell you this, going into space is not in our nature. We're not designed to be in space. We're just not. These bodies are cool, not that cool. We're not designed to go faster than the speed of sound. You can't do it just by your own. You need a plane to do it. You need a machine, right? So one thing that is in our nature is compassion and love. So if we could do these things that aren't in our nature, like go into space and travel faster than the speed of sound, then building a future society built on love and compassion, that's in our nature. That seems much easier than doing those things, at least in my opinion. All right. And we got to get rid of this idea of separation. We're trained from a very early age that, we're on different teams, we have different goals, but we're all in it together. We have to see this. We built a society that is strangely built on isolation and yet conformity. We have the same desires, but we need to look out for ourselves and our own family first. Now, the path forward, I truly believe, is the opposite. We need to celebrate We need to celebrate individuality while also coming together as a community. This is the path forward, right? We need to come together as 8 billion strong. If 8 billion people all pulled the cart in the same direction, can you imagine what we can accomplish? Anything we put our minds to. Now, that's about all I have for you guys today. Pretty much, we're on a hero's journey, I firmly believe. And I think we'll see humanity come out the other side, coming home to our values. And with that being said, I'll open it up to everybody else.
Thank you, Ivanny, for sharing so many different perspectives and views on your perspective as far as what's going on with ourselves, society, what we could do to change to a better, more empowering perspective. And there's so many ways to look at life, right? So this is a great time to share your own reflections, thoughts, questions with all of us. Anything you need support on.
I just wanted to say I appreciate you sharing the SPIRE method with us. I think that I had, been aware of those things individually, but putting it all together in an easy to remember acronym like that, and just remembering to check in to see if something is off balance.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Love the haircut too.
Thank you. It's my hillbilly haircut.
I love it. Love it.
Thank you, Phil, for sharing with us. Looks like Josh has his hand up. Josh, you have a comment?
Yes. Thank you for sharing, Yanni. So one of the things you mentioned earlier was leading into ourselves, and that's been synchronicity for me the past few days, learning to just be and not do more.
Yes.
Especially with society's illusion of standards. What do you
Yes.
recommend for just being and not wanting to chase doing more or feeling anxious because you're not necessarily doing enough? But then you also have to take into consideration, we have to live, we have to work and pay the bills and things like that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah, it's tough. What I personally suggest is just kind of like finding those moments in between and just cherishing the little things, like a sunny day, taking that little walk after dinner, and just taking time to just slow it down, because there's going to be so many times where you do need to rush, you do need to go to work, you got your morning routine, you got to get to work, and all that kind of stuff, So anytime you get a break, just take advantage of it and just enjoy the slowness of it. And also, I like to solve the problems from both ends. So, like I definitely encourage when it's possible, and I know this isn't practical for everybody, but like I approached a minimalist kind of view in my life. So I try to want less stuff. So I need to earn less money. So instead of like burning both ends of my candle, I want to burn the problem at both ends of that candle, if that makes any sense.
I see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
So instead of going for more, kind of be content with what feels good or
Yeah.
what's necessary instead of going for just excess.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Thank you, Yanni.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Josh.
Yeah, I feel to piggyback on what you just expressed, whose standards are we following, right?
Yeah.
Whose standards?
Hmm.
Is it really listening to what's real for us, what's present for us, or is it society saying you have to, you need to? If you don't, you're worthless, right? You're not
Hmm.
living up to this imaginary standard. So self-examination, reflection.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Andres,
Hey, Yanni, how are you guys?
Andres, what's up, my man? How you doing? How
Or
you
how
doing?
are you? Glad to be here. Glad
Doing
to be here.
well.
Doing well. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, you know, what you were saying that like pain is fetishized. Um, throughout my whole life, I kind of I almost took on like, from the movie 300, like the whole Spartan way to be. And
Yeah.
you know, I, I always felt like, no pain, no gain. It took a while to, I guess due to necessity to try to shed some of those things. Everybody needs healing. I think that's the thing is, so a person like me, um, who's, been through a lot of things like all of us, realized that late in the game that I need to do something better. But I think everybody needs it. I think people need to start thinking about it, even people that have a normal life, or would even consider themselves happy. um there's a lot that they need to do to prevent themselves from going into that cycle of pain and trying to build themselves in another, someone else's image.
Yeah.
So um I'm kind of new to the game as far as healing is concerned. So I'm really glad that I can listen to a conversation like this. A lot of things I take in, with entertainment. It's just like you said, it's everywhere. It seems like the most entertaining stuff out there is really, geared towards, suffering or violence. So
Yeah.
it's nice to listen to you guys talk.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you this just real quick, and this is my experience when I decided to become a personal trainer. I was like, well, I feel like I need to look like a personal trainer. So I started hitting the gym very hard. I was going, I have a personal gym at home, and I was hitting it like 2 days, 2 times a day, and I burned out real quick before I got my, certificate. And I stopped working out, and then I was like just following my coursework, and I was like, it was a very weird relationship I had with working out, because I'm like, I'm still learning to be a personal trainer, yet I've come to hate working out. So I made a deal with myself. I said, I'm going to work out, but if I don't feel like it on any day, I'm going to stop. If I only do 2 sets, and I don't feel like doing any more, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to push myself to any extraordinary means. And when I did this, then I started seeing results. I started really started loving working out, and I started like walking by the mirror, and I was like, where did that muscle come from? You know what I mean? Like that's when, because I wasn't worried about it. I just started loving what I was doing, and it really paid off. So pain is not the answer, my friend.
Right. And the most, extreme example of that is, like our professional athletes. That's what they're taught to make it until you break it,
Yeah.
essentially. And that's like the end game. You were saying earlier, fame and fortune, they might get the Ferrari, but what did they lose in the process?
It's a very good point, my friend. Indeed.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
I'd like to just add to what you guys are talking about, this idea of pain, in order to gain, right? No pain, no gain. Where does that really come from? What is that perspective inward, right?
Yeah.
We have to beat ourselves with the hammer to get somewhere. The thought is, though, we are, and we are enough. I know you talked about this a little bit. We
Yes.
are, we exist, and that's enough right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right now is all there is. Right now, we can create the experience we want. Do we want to suffer?
Yeah.
Do we want to have peace? Do we want to enjoy life? Right? Like we've been conditioned
Mm-hmm.
that somehow, someday, not today, but guess what? Someday doesn't exist in real life. All there is every day is full stop right here, right now. That's all
Yeah.
there is at any point.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. We got to enjoy it because it's here for us to enjoy, you know? Absolutely.
We have a few more minutes. Any more reflections, thoughts, comments, anything you want to be witness, any expressions, whether they even relate to the topic or not, doesn't matter. This is the place to be heard, to get support, anything we can do.
Hey, Yanni, my name's Rocio. As I was hearing your introduction, I was smiling because I am an artist. I'm an ex-personal trainer. I'm an ex-nutritionist, and I was actually a bodybuilder for 4 years, and I achieved pro status.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I guess my question for you is, like, how do you because like you went through all like the acronyms, and it's like, how do you achieve balance? Because I feel like for me, like, like maybe like 2 3 weeks ago I was really into like working out and nutrition, and now like I'm really into my art, and I've learned to like accept like where I'm at, to the point where I'm like, I don't know when it be like it's acceptance, or is it like becoming lazy, like there's like that line where I'm like, okay, like I'm fine with not working out, and giving myself a little break, and because I'm like focused on another area of it. Like, how do you balance everything?
So I just want to say laziness is a good thing. I firmly believe laziness is a good thing. We are not like a hammer is not meant to be hammering nails all the time, nonstop. It would have a very short life if a hammer just was nailing all the time. Plus, it would be kind of senseless, right? I like to say that the phone, we love our phones, right? The phone can't do it if it isn't charged. We need to take that time to charge. Laziness to me is the body signaling us to slow down, right? And I believe when you honor the body and honor what it asks, right? And I honestly think like downtime, laziness, whatever the term is, I believe that is a holistic thing. Like it is a pure thing, and sometimes the body just needs that downtime. And for me, I noticed that when I give it that downtime, I come back harder, I come back stronger, because I'm well rested, because I'm like mentally just clear now, like the burden has been taken off, because I've given my mind that time to step away from it. So the balance really comes in, like, I guess to answer your question, the balance comes in for like giving yourself grace with whatever your body needs, right? Giving yourself grace with what your body is requesting of you, right? And it sounds like you have a whole bunch of interests, and you love doing them. And when one interest is dominating, fully embrace it. And then when the next one comes in, fully embrace that. But when there is that time where you just need that time off, take it. You know what I mean? As much as you possibly can, because I know it's, in the world, we still got to work our jobs and make our money and all that good stuff, but to the greatest extent of your ability. You know, take that time and honor your body's need for that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. I'm actually I think that makes sense because right now I'm like resting because I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. So I think that's just my body saying, hey, honor it and rest. And yeah, it's just like you said, we've been like conditioned to like go, go, go. And
Yep.
I'm just like, I mean, right now I'm just doing what I enjoy doing, which is great, but I enjoy doing a lot of things. And I'm like, oh my God, there's only 24 hours in the day. And, so yeah, was just wondering how you went about it.
Yeah, just one day at a time and doing what I can and just not beating myself up about it,
Thank you. Looks like Marietta has her hand up.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hi.
Hello.
First of all, amazing job. Awesome.
Thank you so
Glad I
much.
was able to listen. But definitely like I can relate to a lot of things you said, especially the pain part. And we've had conversations about this as well, because I too used to work out. And then I'm just like, I don't really like this. I'm not enjoying it. So you've already helped me see like a lot of things, like it's okay to feel that way because it's not supposed to be painful and I dread it every time. So thank you for touching on those topics and just like confirming that it is okay. And I like what you said, laziness is good because we do need to recharge. Full of knowledge and wisdom. So thank you for
Thank you.
sharing your
Thank you so
information
much.
with
Thank
us.
you so much.
You're welcome. All right, bye. Thank you. And congratulations on this whole platform. You said you started in the beginning as just, you didn't know what you were doing and to see what happens, but sounds like you're doing something amazing. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your comment. And I think what Marietta is really talking about and what Yanni's really talking about is self-love and compassion. I know you brought that out during the conversation. Sometimes we forget to be loving to ourselves and compassionate to ourselves. Sometimes we're more courteous to other people than ourselves.
Yeah.
So I really feel that it all begins within. When we take care of ourselves, everything flows, not from force, like I have to, like force myself, suffer. No, it comes from a place of love, ease and flow, power. Things just are effortless, right? So things to think about, like, how do I treat myself, right? Because how we treat ourselves is how everything flows out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. 100% agree. Yeah.
Does anybody have one last comment? We're up on the hour.
I was just going to make a comment on working out and laziness. I love yoga because I don't feel like I'm working out. I feel like it's a lazy person's way to stay in shape. So doesn't work for anybody, but might work for you, Marietta.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Phil. Rose, did you have a comment, question?
Yes, for Yanni, thank you for validating that experience because I went through that before I have kids. I love weightlifting. I would go to gym twice a day, and then after I gave birth, and even they're 5 years old now, I tried to get back to it. I was beating myself like, oh, why I wasn't lifting heavy like I used to. I didn't have the same strength, and then I realized that we go through changes and seasons in life, and I think honoring the changes, we're not supposed to stay the same forever. And when I realized like, okay, this is not what my body needs at this moment, not weightlifting, swimming and walking, something gentle exercise, and it's still fun because I really love weightlifting, but I guess my body's telling me, no, you're not ready yet. Give it time. And it's okay if you're not doing heavy weightlifting. You can, gentle exercise still matters because I guess in my head, if you're not going hard, if you're not doing something, then I'm not getting ripped. And then it's so frustrating. I didn't like that. And because I was, before kids, I was really into weightlifting. And the other thing, my question was, is there any pivotal experience in your life that led you to become this person that you are now? Because like I know in my experience, I didn't change until something like, you know, like a something like you have to hit rock bottom for you to change. Because you said before you were an alcoholic, if that
Yeah.
right? You were so what led you to this point? What for you to become this person that you are now? Because we don't change unless something has, you
Yeah. No, you know what? I like to joke with people, and I like to say, because I lived a very self-destructive life. And yeah, there came a moment where I decided I needed to quit drinking. Someone said something to me that kind of shattered me. And I was like, okay, I need to quit drinking. And thankfully, you know, I found a book that made it really easy to do. It was called Quit Drinking Without Willpower. And I quit drinking one day, and next day was like, I like to say that like I was crashing my plane so hard that when I hit the ground, I kind of like ping pong back up, you know? So that was a pivotal moment. And before I quit drinking, I was a bartender. You know, my entire community that like my entire friend group were all heavy drinkers. Like my friends were bartenders as well. And so in quitting drinking, I lost a lot of friends. Uh, you know, my life got kind of like flipped turned upside down, to quote, you know, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Um, so I lost a lot, and I really had a lot of time to reflect and to kind of like find new modalities of being satisfied. And you know, like I said, yoga entered my life, meditation entered my life. I found this great experience called Envision Festival, which was really, I went, my first time going was in 2020, and it was really like a life-changing experience. Actually, I met Noe at Envision this past year. So you know, it just like when I emptied my life of the things that were no longer serving me, I opened up so much space for a whole bunch of things that served me really well, you know? So that was really the pivotal moment for me, was just that quitting drinking and then everything that followed.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the call. And I just want to recap on one thing that Ivanny just said that is so important. When we eliminate those things that no longer serve us, we create this void, this space for something new to emerge within us, to be replaced by something else, for inspiration to flow through, for new things to trickle through, for the new iteration to turn that page from the old chapter to the new chapter. And so that is so powerful there. I just wanted to emphasize that. But I appreciate everybody here. I appreciate you, Ivanny, for sharing your story. Thank you so much for enlightening us with so many different perspectives, so many things that really point the flashlight of awareness to so many different areas. That maybe one thing, maybe two things, maybe many things will resonate with us and will create some destruction where we let go of some things that no longer serve us. That will create space for new things that will empower us. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all for being here. And I look forward to seeing hopefully all of you again. For next week's call will be Thursday at 11. We have another great guest speaker. She's a therapist, and she's going to be sharing a very unique perspective as well. And so hopefully I'll be able to see you guys there. And thank you again for being here, everybody. Love you guys.
Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you on the next one. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.